You can want to be wise like Gandalf. You can want to be simple, and I'm just gonna accept this quest and do everything I can, like Frodo. You can want to be the simple helper to him, like Sam. And Sam's the real hero of the story. Um, you can want to have the nobility of the Rohirrim. You can want to, you know, give your life even in the face of your faults, like Boromir. And there's obviously characters you don't want to be like
I
Denethor.
was gonna say, yeah, just as long as you don't want to be like Denethor.
Yep.
But at least, even if you don't want to be like Denethor, there is a way in which you can at least understand him.
Mm-hmm. Mighty
Nothing is
man indeed.
excused. None of his actions, particularly the wicked ones, are excused. But they
Yep.
can at least be explained and understood. That yes,
Yeah.
I can see how a man could fall that way.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how
Yeah, this-
a man could give in to despair the way that he did, because he watched. Because there's no indication that he was a bad steward,
No.
or that his father was a bad steward. But, he has gotten used to his position, effectively being the king in the king's absence. And now he starts hearing that this ranger from the north has claims to the throne. And, reports start coming more frequently, and they start coming more accurately. And you start to think, oh, this ranger from the north is the king. And when he returns, I will no longer be needed. Which is not true, but it is something that you think of. Because the steward still has a job when the king is there. He just has more work when the king is absent.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that you have gotten used to, your life as you know it, has come to an end, and then a cloven horn is put at your feet. One that you recognize because it is the only one of its make, the one that belonged to your eldest and favored son. And there is only one option, that he has fallen. So you're about to lose your job, your oldest son is dead. And now, the largest enemy force you have ever seen is at the gate.
And you know how big it is, and you know what's waiting, even if you beat it.
And you know what has led it. You know what has sent it. And you do not see the riders of Rohan, who are on their way. You do not see Aragorn bringing the Dunedain. All you see is death. So it is easy to understand how, well, once you take those things into account, it's easy to understand and to see how nihilism and despair can take root in the human mind. So in the case of the men who really existed who were like Denethor, they ought to be prayed for, above all else, because they were not wicked men. Denethor is not a wicked man. He is not some irredeemably evil man. He just surrendered. In here, he surrendered to his own doubt, his own fear, and his own sadness and sorrow. Because all he knew is that his oldest son was dead. He did not have the opportunity to hear Aragorn say, "He died nobly, he died properly. And I buried him, or I sent him over Rauros Falls, with the honor due to a soldier of Gondor."
Mm-hmm.
Which is the second best possible way for a man to die. The other one being calmly, quietly in his bed, surrounded by his loved ones.
Yeah.
Without
So-
being told of the kind of death that his son died. And without knowing that there were reinforcements coming. And without knowing that this king is a just and good man. And he will not kick you in the teeth and toss you out on your ear. like that voice in your head is whispering. So the men who were like Denethor should certainly be prayed for, as should all who fall to despair.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's at least understandable.
What does it take for a strong man like Denethor, incredibly strong of mind, who could contest with the will of Sauron through the Palantir for as long as he did? Which was far too long. Any amount of time was too long. It took a long time for him to break. But how did that type of man come to wanting to burn himself and his son like the heathen kings of old? Despair and surrender, like you said.
And Sauron's strategy in that, which similarly to how the devil's strategies are, is to take him at his, even in the case of Denethor, perhaps his only weakness, his son. Both of his sons. And Sauron is able to whisper to him through the Palantir, "Your sons are dead. Your line is no more. You will never be a grandfather. And my armies are at your gate. You may as well just die." And anybody that has ever gone through sort of a sudden hit of depression understands that. Because everything can be growing great, and you can think you're doing just fine for months. And then there's one thing that can hit you in the gut and tell you that you're not worth anything and you may as well be dead.
Well, and it's a whole host of things, and it's a grinding over time, in his case. But I know what that's like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Got plenty of experience with that, without getting too deep in the details. So we have our things that, just like we have our things we can aspire to in Lord of the Rings, we have the opposite of aspiration as well here. You know, we have the cautionary tales. Fulton Sheen says that any sinner can become a great saint, and any saint can become a great sinner. Lord of the Rings shows us what both of those are like. We have the repentance of Boromir. We also have the despair of his father.
And every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future.